This is the 12-foot Sears Gamefisher rowboat motorboat that I purchased off of Facebook Marketplace. I got the boat and the trailer. I have a lot of things to address with this before it becomes a viable boating project. Hopefully the finished project comes out pretty good. So I've got some interesting ideas of things I'd like to do on such a small boat. First thing I need to address is the wheel bearings and tires. So I do have jack stands. I probably am not going to use it right now because there's not much load here and I'm not going underneath the trailer. But if you were to go underneath anything you lift with a car jack like this, you'll want to definitely secure it with jack stands. And I have new tires and rims that I'll be replacing this with. At this time, I'm not sure if this fender is going to be able to stay because I am upgrading the size. We'll see when we get to that point. Let it be overwhelming or intimidating just by simply hearing packing bearings or, obviously I respect every trade in people's jobs. So if you're an expert at packing bearings or trailer axles, you have my respect, but it doesn't mean that somebody who is not a professional can't attempt it and achieve positive results. So that's my 2 cents. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin this. I want it tight enough that I don't hear any noises when I go back and forth with the tire. I don't hear or feel any wiggle. And I'm going to so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a little bit tighter than I should just to make sure that the bearings are compressed, and then I'll back it off until I'm satisfied with the tire spinning. And then I'll put in a new cotter pin. I could use this old one if I had to, but it's best if you have the ability or new cotter pins on hand to replace them, especially when they're worn out like this. So I'm going to do that. I'll spare you the other side because we've done this, and I'll apologize for not moving the camera around for better angles, but as you can see, my hands have been a little full of grease and I really can't grab it. So So these nuts that are on the lug, the studs for the lugs are sort of self-centering. You can see they're beveled. So you want to put them on by hand first to let them center themselves in the holes of the rim before you really send them, so you don't have a lopsided tire or something out of round. Put a drain plug in here. Now, ideally, I'd put it in the lowest point center of the boat, but because this backer plate is here, I'm actually gonna bring it over here so I can access the back, because I'm gonna put in the drain plug and back it with a stainless steel washer and use bolts instead of screws. That stuff is much gooier than I remembered using it the last time.
A few moments later.
So this is what it looks like after I put the 5200 on. I ended up smearing the excess around the washer. And it's probably just fine white, but I want to make it a little more discreet, so I'm going to spray paint it gray. Next, I'm going to mount this grab rail to the boat, and I'm going to end up using this piece of PVC board as a spacer where the to fill this gap here in the between the boat and the base of the grab bar, so that when I bolt it down, it doesn't malform the bottom of the boat and let water come in. I'd prefer something stronger and more solid to clamp against. And in doing so, I'm going to create 3 points of contact. So I'm going to use this hole that's already here. And I'm not going to use these holes on the edges because they're meeting the ribs of the boat. So I'm going to actually end up drilling 2 new holes in here to create like a triangle effect. That said, I don't know how strong it's exactly going to be, so I'm going to take one additional step in this, and I'm going to take this threaded rod here, and I'm going to drill through the grab bar through the seat, so that way this will be a little more braced. And in doing so, I'm going to use washers and different bolts to keep the pressure so that there's the gap here is actually supported and it doesn't slide. And you'll see how that goes as I figure it out. But the first thing I need to do is cut this to length and then figure out my angle here, because it's got kind of a dip in the boat, so I'm going to have to trim the PVC to match. Is I'm going to try to take some of this plastic out here so that the bolts can come, instead of coming in at an angle, they can come up kind of straighter. And in order for this to have somewhere to go, I need to make room for it. So that's the theory anyways. I'll probably chip it with a hammer and a screwdriver. Things that happened here that I did wrong. The first one is, because I'm doing this as a one-man project and I didn't wait for someone to help me out and hold the socket wrench for me, I overlooked putting washers in on these nuts. Got him! Anyways, this is thick enough aluminum, so it's not really critical. That's okay. Gonna just go forward. It's not worth fighting it to get these neoprene lock nuts off. But underneath, rubber washers between the stainless washers and the aluminum. You should be able to see the rubber washers got malformed or distorted to where they're squeezed in, but the hole that the bolt goes through left an opening. So I'm literally going to get a razor and scrape off this flap here and then go around with 5200, and hopefully that's not an issue in the future. If I could do it all over again, I would not use the rubber washers because of the amount of pressure that is happening here. So I ended up short on nylock nuts because I had a issue with one of these. There must have been a burr in the bolt, so it got almost all the way up and then it locked up. So I had to borrow from here. So this gets a nylon lock nut. This one's going to get a nylock nut also, but not today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this all thread with the grinder, and this nut is here, which will allow me to back it out. And if the thread is marred or bent, this should open it up so I can put a nylon lock nut in the future. So for now, for mock-up or end of mock-up, I'm going to use this nut here as temporary.
The next day.
This has it's like been dented here, and there's some more of this adhesive here, so I don't know what that is, but I'm gonna burn the rest of that off with a torch, get a rubber mallet, and try to straighten this out before I put my JB Weld putty and then epoxy over that. So I'm going to use the JB Weld steel stick epoxy putty on this, and it comes inside this tube with these like silver covered paper ends. It's kind of important to save these for the amount you don't use. You want to put it back on for storage. These things don't have all that long of a shelf life, so it wouldn't be worth going out and buying a bunch of these if you weren't planning on using them anytime in the near future. But they are worth saving, because you never know what's going to come next. But you won't get too much life out of them, but to get the maximum life out of them, save those ends for when you put it back for storage. And the core has a different color than the surrounding, and you need to knead those together into a solid colored putty. that's what's going to activate this so that it can harden and be as strong as possible. So I'm going to let that harden, and then I'm going to take the JB Weld epoxy, and I'll tape off a square probably to neaten that up a little bit, and then epoxy over it. Then I'll do the underside. So that's it for this episode of the 12-foot Sears Gamefisher. Got many more things to do. In the next episode of projects, I'll be installing a bow rail, and I'll put in a picture of my mock-up here. As you can see, there's much work to be done regarding how that's going to get mounted and make sense. And before I let you go, I did realize that I'm missing some rivets in the back seat. It was not my intention to bolt these in, but I'm going to bolt them in. I'm going to replace these rivets in the back seat like I did in the front with stainless steel washers. So thanks so much for watching, and I appreciate your staying. If you're still watching the video this long, I appreciate all of that, and have a great day.